Yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is you basically have laid out this idea that Europe has been the cause of their own energy crisis, that they are very much have themselves to blame. So why do you think this is, and why is it not big bad Russia that's made all our problems?
Well, there is a kind of, there is a very famous commentator on all things related to energy and commodities. They run an interesting Substack and also, by the way, a fantastic Twitter account, and they call themselves Doomberg. It's a play on Bloomberg, but they call themselves Doomberg, and they kind of came up deliberately in a joking way with a fake Sun Tzu quote there, and which goes like this: They say, "If you hand all your leverage to the enemy, then don't be surprised if he uses it." And this is a little bit the situation with Russia. So if one says, okay, what happened in 2022? Sure, we could take the position that the energy crisis is primarily caused by Russia's war against Ukraine. But if we look at the run-up to all of this, we gave all that leverage to Russia, particularly in the energy sector. And this is particularly true for Germany. The French are a little bit of a separate topic, but I'm sure we're going to talk about this as well. It is important to mention different European countries have different energy mixes and have different dependencies on Russia and the kind of fossil fuels they use. But there is one overarching theme that has been true for all over Europe, and particularly the Western European states, but the European Union member states, but also Great Britain. And that is this idea that you can have energy, but without any downsides, which meant like no drilling, no exploration within European territory. And what you need in the realms of energy, you can get by renewables. And when we say renewables, we primarily, of course, mean wind and solar. I mean, there is in areas where it's possible, there's, of course, also hydropower. But that's limited to, the Swedes are very good at this. Austria is very strong at it. But this depends on the topographic situation. So not everybody can do hydropower. The Dutch cannot do hydropower, even if they would want to, because they simply don't have the geography for it. And it's self-inflicted also. There would be many natural resources in Europe. This is very often underestimated. There is a lot under the ground that could be explored. And by the way, we're not just talking about gas here, which would be a lot in Poland and Germany. There would even be lithium. There's still remaining potential for coal mining. There is a lot still there, but the decision is for primarily environmental reasons, which again, one can discuss in greater detail. The decision was made not to tap into these. Now, we can absolutely defend those decisions. That's fine by me. But I think you always have to be honest what the consequences are, which is if you do not access your own energy resources and you decide to import them, there are two consequences. One is it's going to be more expensive. And the second one is if the party from which you import, for whatever reason, turns sour on you or you on them, well, then they're probably going to use that leverage. And this is precisely what we have observed since February 2022. So none of this is a great surprise. And if you look at the numbers, I mean, it was clear that if relations with Russia, or now one could also argue if relations with the United States, because now we shifted to an LNG dependency on the United States, or all these new long-term contracts with Qatar and other Gulf states for LNG in the future, if relations turn sour with them, we're going to be in exactly the same situation. So it doesn't strike me as if we have really learned from this situation.
Like one of the things that really confuses me about the entire discussion about energy, about fossil fuels, about renewable sources of energy is that we seem to be trying to make this leap in some senses to like fully renewable sources of energy before we're actually capable of doing that and it's like we don't even want to accept, like, because I don't know, if we got enough lithium and dealt with the problems with the grid and managed to deal with like storing all the energy so that renewables were the viable source for most of our fuel, it's like we still need some other fuel in the interim till we get to that period, right? Why? Because it seems to, it's like, because it's not just like, so Europe have kind of, as you've laid out, caused some of their own problems. Like, I mean, Germany turned off or decommissioned all of their nuclear plants. America has been shutting down some of the new oil pipelines coming down from Canada, and it seems like we're trying to pretend like we're there and like totally ready for 100% renewables, like technologically and like in terms of infrastructure, and we're taking away these old sources of energy with no like plan to replace them, and it just seems like energy suicide. Like, what on earth
Yeah.
is going on?
Well, I think there's kind of three answers, I believe, to this question. One is, I think we often have forgotten how much modern life depends on energy. I think this is something that simply eludes us. And I'm not just talking about electricity kind of as the most prominent form of energy in our daily lives, right? We're just used to the fact, we plug in our computer, we plug in our cell phone. Who knows, very soon, all of us have to plug in their electric vehicles. We're just used then to the idea that electricity is going to come out of it. But we underestimate there's a lot more going on. Just to give an example, the modern city, if you want, right, is built on steel, it's built on concrete, right, and all of this needs vast amounts of energy to be produced. Like the process to turn lime into cement, into concrete, right, it's a very energy intensive process. The same, of course, is true with steel, right, and other materials and other metals. That you cannot process them with low level heat. You need massive amounts of industrial heat, and all of this can, at the moment, only be or most effectively be provided by fossil fuels. Yes, there are ideas that we can use hydrogen, and there are potential alternatives, but that's all still in the development phase. And there are already people who say that maybe, again, I'm not saying I'm one of them, I'm just laying out what the argument is, that hydrogen is not going to be as easy as many think. It's less energy dense than natural gas. It needs to be kept at much colder temperatures, which could potentially lead to more erosion in pipelines, because currently the plan is we just use the natural gas pipelines then for hydrogen. So there is a lot now that even the alternatives that we're thinking about potentially are not going to be the right ones, or as feasible as you might think. And the reason why I'm saying is because there's this idea, you know what, you take a couple of fewer hot showers, and let's say you only charge your phone at night, and then we kind of, like with a snap of our fingers, can move everything to wind, move everything to solar, or to burning biomass or anything. But it's not going to work like this, because the major processes necessary to sustain civilization need energy. I mean, and we haven't even talked about another field that I would like to mention, which is plastics. Right, you need both for the chemical processes to create it, and also for the compounds that make it. You need fossil fuels to create plastic. And right, you probably see it in the background. I'm a very nostalgic person, but we don't just use plastic for Masters of the Universe action figures. Right, go to a modern hospital. Everything there is for good reason is made of plastic, because it's a very convenient form to store blood, for injections and all these kind of things. It's all these it's bendable, right? So you can create the artificial breathing machinery and all of this. So lots of things that make civilized life possible depends on energy. And I think we have forgotten this. We tell the story. I know, I'm sorry, I'll probably apologize. It's going to be a little bit of a longer answer.
That's right.
But I think we tell the story about energy wrong. We tell it as if it's just one part of modern life, right? It's one topic, kind of, we compartmentalize it. But in fact, it's the one thing that underlies everything else. It's, as somebody once remarked, it's kind of the only true universal currency is energy. If you have more of it, you're going to get richer. If you have less or too little of it, you're going to get poorer. Take one quick example. A country like Qatar, and I think they have shown this during the football World Cup, right, is pushing significantly above its weight. Why can they do this? Because they are a net primary energy exporter. So, right, the Germans can all huff and puff about, oh, you will not silence us, and our footballers, they will wear an armband with the rainbow flag and all of this. And Qatar pretty much said, listen, you come to us asking us for LNG contracts, and then you think you can, try to humiliate us on the global stage. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work. And this is pretty much exactly what happened, because you cannot run a modern economy without access to energy. And we tend to forget this. And it's particularly ironic. I was thinking about this, just as a quick add-on. I don't know where you live, but as you said, right, I live in Vienna. Especially urbanites like ourselves. I assume you're also in an urban setting at the moment.
Yeah, I'm in London.
Oh well, like we are in the person. So we talk here between Vienna and London. If energy becomes scarce, including electricity, we are the ones who are going to be screwed, right? We are the ones who live in the the surrounded by steel and concrete with not any kind of pasture around us. The people in the countryside are probably going to be just fine, right? They have much closer access to alternative forms of energy, whether it be wood and whether it be when you can plant at least something in your garden. So for them, I think the survival with, let's say, less energy is more likely or more manageable than for us in the cities. Imagine, you live in an apartment on the 25th floor and they say, it's too bad, elevators are only going to work 2 days a week. That's like, this is a huge inconvenience. Or who of us, maybe you do it. I'm planning on starting to do it. I don't do it yet. How much food do you have in your refrigerator? Like, if there would be a blackout right now, how long for how long would you have food available?
Maybe a week.
Oh, then you beat me, right? I have a few cans of tuna. Like, I could make it a couple of days, but I'm not anyway. I'm just used to the fact. Like, I plan after this conversation to go to the store and buy something to make for dinner. Now, imagine a situation again where supermarkets are closed for 2 days, 3 days because there is no electricity.
No food.
I think we completely underestimate the potential repercussions. And this brings me to my other point that especially the proponents, I think, of renewables, either by accident or deliberately obfuscate or are not willing to accept. We had in Great Britain and Germany, if you look at the numbers over the last couple of days, we had periods where renewables contributed about 3%, 4% to overall electricity needs. Now, one can say, well, what's the big deal, right? It happens once or twice a year, so why should we care? Because electricity, especially, is something you need 24/7. It's not a commodity, it's a service, right? It's like your doctor telling you, saying, listen, Josh, you're very healthy, but there might be one day a year where you can't breathe, but you're going to be fine for the rest of the year. So 364 days, your heart, your lungs are going to be fine, but there's one day where both of them are not going to work. Well, you'll be dead, right? So it might be an outlier. You could say on average, it's fine, but in fact, it's a lethal thing. And I believe this is how we also have to look at energy. This is not something where I say we had a lot of electricity in August, so it's okay if we don't have it in December. This is not like none of this works like this. I mean, can you imagine how much food we would have to throw away if a refrigeration chains at food distributors are broken for a couple of hours? I mean, just again from an environmental and moral perspective, how much we would have to just throw away because it would go bad. And I think this is where we are not honest in the debate about energy. And the last point on this, which I think is also very important, I'm not opposed to nuclear, I'm not opposed to wind, but I think we have to face them for what they are, which is they have the so-called capacity factors are very low. By capacity factor, we mean you can build, 35 gigawatts of solar capacity. And what this means is that on a perfect day, under perfect conditions, it could produce that vast amount of energy, of electricity in this case. But those conditions are barely ever existent. So on average, the capacity for solar in Great Britain is a little higher, right? I think it's about 15%. In the US, it's around 25% because they have California, Arizona, New Mexico. In Germany, it's 11%.
Whoa. So why is it so low in Germany? Do you just have you have more cloud cover?
Because let's put it this way: Munich and Berlin, for example, have fewer sunny days than Seattle. Germany is, and don't get me wrong, I like the Germans, but I mean, when you think about when you think about sun and blue skies, is your first thought Germany?
No, it's not.
It's not, right? You think about the coast areas. It's like in Sicily, it would make a lot of sense, right? If you say you build solar farms in Sicily, in North Africa, absolutely. But to do it in Bavaria or in the Alps it makes no sense.
Hey everyone, thanks for making it right the way to the end of the podcast. I love that you tuned in this long. Do me a favor, hit subscribe, because 80% of you bastards are not subscribing, but you're watching my videos. See you next time.